Born into an ordinary family in Quang Ninh, Michael Tran was once known as an intelligent young man, ambitious, and expected to have a bright future. He was a student at a university in Hanoi. However, beneath that intellectual facade was a man with a complex personality. Friends once remarked that Michael Tran was smart but introverted, rarely shared his thoughts, and was especially jealous and controlling in romantic relationships. The seeds of selfishness and possessiveness, which seemed to exist only at the level of personal emotions, gradually became a dangerous undercurrent. Criminal psychologists point out, in many cases, perpetrators do not necessarily come from a criminal background. Some were once good students or intellectual workers. But selfishness, combined with extreme possessiveness, when met with conflict, can transform them into murderers. Michael Tran is a prime example of that paradox. In his 20s, Michael Tran had all the conditions to build a stable life, education, ability, and the love of his family. But instead of maturing with reason, he allowed himself to be dominated by jealousy, personal pride, and the fear of losing control over those who once had emotional ties with him. The fateful meeting. In May 2010, Hanoi entered the sweltering summer. According to later testimony, Michael Tran confessed that he and the victim had once been in a relationship. Taking advantage of Ivy, his new girlfriend, giving him a key to look after her apartment, on the afternoon of May 4, 2010, Michael Tran invited Emily Tran over. After intimacy, when he saw her answer a phone call from her new boyfriend, jealousy consumed him, and he killed her. According to his statement, at around 10:30 p.m. that night, while Emily Tran was looking in the mirror, he used a sharp knife to stab her from behind, killing her instantly. After committing the crime, he dragged the body into the bathroom, caught up her clothes, severed her head and 10 fingers, then wrapped the body in a blanket and carried it to the rooftop of the apartment building. Taking her motorbike and laptop, Michael Tran brought them to a pawn shop. At noon on May 5, 2010, he caught a bus back to Quang Ninh, carrying part of the victim's body and her clothes in plastic bags, which he dumped into the Cam River. With bloodstains splattered on the walls of Yen's apartment, the perpetrator bought paint to cover them up to avoid detection. More than 10 days later, when he realized the crime had been discovered, Michael Tran fled. Since their daughter's death, the Tran family has not had a single peaceful day. Whenever they received a phone call, they rushed out with relatives to search for their unlucky daughter's remains. After nearly a month of searching through Hanoi, Quang Ninh, and Haiphong, on the morning of June 7, part of the victim's body was found near a field in Quang Ninh. Criminal psychology indicates that individuals with extreme possessiveness often struggle to accept their ex-partner finding happiness with someone else. They see it as a humiliation, as a personal failure. For Michael Tran, wounded pride mixed with feelings of loss pushed him into a state of emotional explosion. In that moment, the boundary between reason and instinct vanished. No longer a former student knowledgeable in law, no longer a young man once expected to have a promising future. All that remained in the cramped apartment was a man trembling with jealousy, obsessed with the thought, if she cannot belong to me, then she cannot belong to anyone else. In that moment, a young life was taken, A 20-year-old woman, full of dreams and future, was forever stopped by the hand of someone who had once been close to her. According to criminal psychologists, at the time of the crime, perpetrators often fall into a state of explosive loss of control. This happens when long-accumulated inner conflicts meet the final catalyst, in this case, Emily Tran's resolute rejection, turning all repression into extreme action. Not stopping at murder, Michael Tran also decided to dismember and dispose of the body to conceal the crime. Coldly, he carried Emily Tran's body out to the balcony and began dismembering it for disposal. Pieces of fabric, plastic bags, and cardboard boxes became tools of concealment. At the moment the knife pierced down, Michael Tran had crossed an irreversible boundary. He not only took away a young woman's life, but also buried his own future, freedom, and humanity. From a former student who could have become an ordinary citizen with a stable career, Michael Tran turned himself into a notorious criminal. And from that night on, the name Michael Tran entered the history of the most shocking criminal cases of the early 21st century in Vietnam. After killing Emily Tran, Michael Tran moved on to another stage of crime, concealment. In his mind, fear and survival instincts quickly overshadowed any sense of remorse. Michael Tran knew clearly, if he left the scene as it was, all evidence would expose him immediately. He chopped Emily Tran's body into pieces, wrapped them in plastic bags and cardboard boxes. This was no longer an impulsive act, but a series of calculated behaviors, showing chilling rationality after the crime.
In the memory of many people, the 2010 case of Michael Tran was not only a personal tragedy, but also a special chronicle of perseverance, determination, and the sharp investigative abilities of the Vietnamese police force. When Emily Tran's body was discovered on the rooftop of the apartment building, a journey to hunt down the killer was immediately launched. From here, each piece was assembled, revealing one of the most shocking criminal investigations. Immediately after the body was discovered, the Hanoi police quickly sealed off the entire rooftop area of the apartment building. Photos taken at the scene and preserved in the case file showed a horrifying sight. The victim's body had been dismembered into many parts. Forensic technicians immediately carried out examinations. They discovered fingerprints, fibers left behind, and several other important pieces of evidence.